All right, good morning, guys. 8.4. Today we're going to be talking about absolute value, the absolute value of a number. And I feel like today's lesson is a little easier than Monday's lesson, so hopefully you'll understand this. But remember, I'm doing Zoom sessions. If you have questions when you're working on your homework, drop in on those Zoom sessions, email me, I'll call you and help you. Whatever I need to do, all right, let me know and I will be happy to help. All right, our new information today is absolute value. What is that? Well, absolute value is the distance of any number, positive or negative, between the number and zero on a number line. So when you look at a number line, you'll see how many places it is from zero, and that's its absolute value. When they're asking you to find absolute value, they'll use these brackets that are around this A, okay? So if they were asking you to find the absolute value of A, or if they ask you to find the absolute value of a -6, that's what it would look like. And it is read as the absolute value of A, or find the absolute value of -6. All right, the distance from zero will not be in negative units. You say, but I'm dealing with a negative number. That doesn't matter. It's how many places is it from zero, and the units will never be negative. So are you 6 places from zero? Even if you're to the left, it doesn't matter. Are you 6 places from zero? Then the absolute value of -6 is 6, because it is 6 places from zero. Well, what if they asked me to find the absolute value of 6? Well, how many places from zero is the whole number 6? It is 6. So the absolute value of -6 is 6, and the absolute value of a +6 is 6. Does everyone see that? All right. And they give you another example down here. The absolute value of -8 will not be -8. It will be 8, because it is 8 places from zero. All right, let's look at graphing it. If it says, like an A, it says find the absolute value of 3. All right, so I go to 0. And I move towards my 3. How many places did I move? 1, 2, 3. So the distance between 3 and 0 is 3. So the absolute value of 3 is 3. What if they asked me to find the absolute value of -2.5? Well, go to -2.5 on your number line. They've put a dot there. It's in between the -2 and the -3. And I'm going to move to 0. I'm going to go a half, then I'm going to go, and I'm going to count till I get over there. I went 1, 2.5 places from 0. So the absolute value of a -2.5 is 2.5. It's 2.5 hops or spaces from 0. All right, let's try to find the absolute value of these numbers. What would the absolute value of 8 be? Hopefully you're saying 8, because 8 is 8 places from 0. What about the absolute value of -6? I'm hoping you said 6, because -6 is 6 places from 0. What about the absolute value of 0? What is that going to be? It's going to be 0. What about 1/4? The absolute value of 1/4 is 1/4. What's the absolute value of a -7 1/3? 7 1/3. And the absolute value of a -12.9 is going to be 12.9. All right, let's look at comparing. What if they asked me to compare the whole number 2 and the absolute value of -5. When they ask you to do that, you need to find the answer to the absolute value before you graph it. All right, so when comparing or ordering numbers, always find the absolute value first, always. So if I'm comparing 2, I'm going to mark 2 on my number line. And if I'm comparing the absolute value of -5, well, the absolute value of that is 5. I'm going to put a dot on 5. Which number is further to the left? 2 is. So 2 is less than the absolute value of -5. All right, let's try this. All right, comparing values. All right, they want us to either use the less than, the greater than, or the equal sign. All right, they want us to use less than, greater than, or equal. All right, so let's look at this. Remember, we're going to find our absolute values first. So if there's an absolute value bracket like there is in this one, I find the absolute value first. The absolute value of -4 is 4. So now I'm comparing 4 and -2. Well, what do I know about a positive and a negative? The negative is always less than the positive. Okay, so here I have -5 and I have the absolute value of 5. Well, the absolute value of 5 is 5. So I'm comparing -5 and the whole number 5. And what do I get? -5 is less than a positive 5. All right, look at this one. 9, the absolute value of 9 is 9. And 10. Well, 9 is less than 10. I'd rather have $10 than $9. Correct? So let's look at number 10. We have 3.9, and then we have the absolute value of a -3.9. All right, and I know that the absolute value cannot be in negative units. I also know that the absolute value of -3.9 is 3.9. So these are actually equal. 3.9 is equal to 3.9. Now, I know a lot of you would say, well, when in the world are we ever going to need this? Well, they give you an example of when the absolute value of a number may come in handy. They're showing these animals and their elevations. Okay, we have a shark, and he lives about 4 feet below sea level. We have a sea lion that lives 5 feet above sea level. We have a seagull that lives 56 feet above sea level, shrimp who live 65 feet below sea level, and a turtle who lives about 22 feet below sea level. All right, so here we have 0. That represents the level of the water or sea level. Okay, and the question is, which animal is the deepest? Explain. Well, anytime you're talking about depth, I think it's a great time and a great opportunity to use the vertical number line, because it really gives you a picture in your mind showing the depth of the water. So if I know this is where the water line is at 0, okay, all of these animals live below the surface of the water. All of these animals live above the surface of the water. Okay, they live above it. All right, so which animal is the deepest? Well, the shrimp is. He's way down here at a -65 or a 65 feet below sea level. So the shrimp is the deepest. But look at question B. Let me erase some of this so you can see this. Look at question B, where it says, is the shark, okay, here's our shark, or the sea lion closer to sea level? Well, who's closer? Look at your chart. The shark is. He's at a -4 feet. Even though he's below sea level, he's closer than the sea lion, who's at 5 feet above sea level. So because 4 is less than 5, the shark is closer to sea level than the sea lion. And that we found out because we found the absolute value of it. which one's closer to 0. So when they're asking you to find absolute value, think of how many spaces is it from 0, and know that negative units will never be used.